Stuff and Things. My name's Chase.
And I'm Jess.
And this is our podcast where we talk about the random stuff and things that influence our business and our life and just the random thoughts and things that we have going on in our life every day.
Yeah.
Welcome to episode 12. We've been doing this for 12 weeks now. So thanks for all of you who have been coming along on the journey with us. It's been pretty fun.
It has been.
We've really enjoyed it. And we look forward to keeping this up, I guess.
Yeah.
As long as we can.
Word mouth noises.
Word mouth noises. Welcome to this episode 12, like I said. So we had a pretty busy weekend this weekend with the holiday season, with Thanksgiving and all of that. So let's talk a little bit about that first before we introduce our topic for the day.
Okay.
We had Thanksgiving.
We did. We ate far too much food. There was definitely food coma. And then like food giddiness that had like, I don't know. It got weird, guys. It got weird.
But yeah, we did Thanksgiving just us, which is like we talked about in the last episode, kind of our traditional thing that we do. It's always fun though. Everything came out right this time, which was good. It was a little later than anticipated, but everything was cooked well.
My apple pie was okay.
It was okay.
It was sad.
Oh, try again. Siri is coming and joining our conversation.
Siri is joining us right now. The only reason I say that is because, like, cook time and all of that, we're trying to cook 2 pies at once. And
it just wasn't great. It wasn't salty, though.
It's fine. It wasn't salty. It would have tasted great. The pie crust was just meh.
Yeah, those store-bought pie crusts aren't ever the best.
Yeah, I should have made it.
And then on Friday, we actually did one of your favorite things for the season. We set up Christmas.
Yay!
So our other tradition, we kind of talked about a little bit. We set up Christmas the day after Thanksgiving, and then it stays up through the new year. And so we had a photo shoot Friday morning.
We did, which was so fun.
Super fun family at a tree farm, actually, which is pretty cool.
We'd never really done that before.
No, so that was a lot of fun to get out there and just kind of have fun documenting their time cutting their tree down. And then we went home and set up our fake tree because we do that and decorate the whole tree.
It just feels real wrong to like, for me personally, no judgment out there. If you get a real tree, I had a real tree almost my whole life. But my parents always bought a bulbed tree so we could replant it. Oh,
we didn't. In Colorado, there's a thing that you can do. It's like a wild forest like permit, basically. So you pay $5 and then you can go out into any of the like national forest land and cut down whatever tree you want, as long as it's like 100 feet off of a roadway. Yeah. And so that's what we did in my whole life. But we've had a fake tree for quite some time now. Yeah. It's just convenient, I think.
It really is.
And then it doesn't shed pine needles everywhere. No. And
we reuse it for many, many years.
Yeah, it's pretty lit. It's pretty great. But we have a pretty awesome like great sitting room area in our house that has 12-foot ceilings in it, or 14-foot ceilings.
Yes, because
so we have
the
a
tree
giant
is 12-foot
tree, which is great. But we also did something that we haven't done in several years. We set up Christmas lights outside.
Yay!
The reason we haven't done this for so long is because last time we did this,
Chase almost died.
I almost fell off the roof.
You ripped your favorite pair of jeans.
Yep. I had a great pair of Levi's that I loved. And I was on a ladder, and the ladder slid out from underneath me, and I went to grab on the roof and caught the ladder with my feet and ripped my pants right up the seam, up my butt. It was pretty great.
Well, it wasn't even up the seam. It was not fixable. Like,
no, there was nothing. They were just destroyed.
It was like a gaping hole where your pants should have been. It was bad.
Plus side was that I didn't fall off the roof.
Yes, you did not.
But that was, 5 years ago?
Yes.
Yeah, and we haven't set up Christmas lights since.
But we did this year. And they're colorful and slightly tacky.
We got all the lights out of the boxes and found out that like 3/4 of them didn't turn on. So
they were really old.
Yeah, so we made an emergency run to Walmart, and we get there and realize, it's Black Friday.
Like I don't remember buying those Christmas lights.
We didn't. We got them from one of your family members. We were gifted them.
Oh, that makes sense.
But we went to Walmart on Black Friday, which was not great.
No.
There were lots of people there.
We kind of had really forgotten, like you said, that it was Black Friday, and we got there and we were like, the
parking lot's full. But so we got the lights. We got new LED lights, which are great. I went all in and even got like a little programming switch that would come on and turn off all by themselves.
And they're all my tacky glory.
They're super tacky. We'll post some pictures on Instagram.
It's not that bad.
Of the lights in our tree and all that, so you guys can see it.
When it comes to Christmas, for me, I love nostalgia. And for me, like the quintessential quintessential Christmas is like all of the Christmas Story. And so I love those like really colorful, like I like the big light bulbs too. Like I love
tacky Christmas.
It's not really tacky. It's just a little more vintage. We're going to call it vintage Christmas.
Vintage Christmas. That makes it sound classy.
It does.
But
so tacky.
Today though, what we're going to do is we are going to continue this kind of, I guess, Advent series that we kind of started.
Yeah.
Just holiday series, I guess. And we want to talk about loving your neighbor and what that kind of looks like. I'm sure you guys have all heard that in some way, shape, or form, or phrasing, or something of that matter.
Yeah.
But it does come from the Bible. It comes from Matthew 22, verse 39. It says, love your neighbor as yourself. It's also actually in the Bible more than 8 times and it's actually commanded by God to love your neighbor.
Yeah.
So, anytime that something's actually repeated a whole bunch of times, it's usually important.
Yes, it is. Well, and I mean, in that particular passage, Jesus is talking about how loving God and loving your neighbors is what like all the laws and prophets hang upon.
Absolutely. So it's hypercritical.
Yes.
And we want to talk about it now because of how wild 2020 has been. And more so like how polarizing 2020 has been. I
had originally wanted to call this episode Let's Get Political and then like pull a little prank on y'all and talk about loving your neighbors instead of getting political because it's not going to happen here.
But yeah, so like I said, 2020 has been super polarizing.
Yeah.
You're basically like, if you're on social media, you see like the two camps, there's one side and the other side. And it doesn't matter what side you're on. It always seems like there's something wrong. And there's something, an issue. There's a problem somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's never good. And so we want to kind of talk about just what you can do in this day and age, what we feel is right and what we feel we're called to do, and how we can kind of overcome just that conflict that comes on social media and just in day-to-day life, I guess, in general.
Yeah, it's really hard when you disagree with someone to like not allow that to taint your view of them. But that's really like, that's where we kind of want to start, is talking about what does loving your neighbor look like? Like, what is that? What are we talking about when we say that? I know particularly where Jesus talks about loving your neighbor, he starts with the parable of the Good Samaritan. And being so far removed from that day and age, the context is somewhat lost on us. We hear it and we're like, oh yeah, he was the nice guy that helped. Well, it wasn't just that. This man, who was a Jewish man, was passed by a priest, by a man of faith, by all these people who should have stopped to help. And I think that there are a lot of parallels to that right now if we're going to get real. Yeah. But then this Samaritan man, who was a Jewish man's enemy, because Jews and Samaritans were enemies. Yeah. The Sumerian people were Jewish, who then intermarried with other religions and cultures. And so the Jews saw them as unclean and tainted. And so really what this is saying is that this man looked at his enemy lying on the ground, and despite how maybe their cultures felt about each other, he stooped down and took care of him.
He had compassion for him.
Exactly. And so loving your neighbor, when Jesus was talking about this, like, this was radical.
Yeah.
What he was saying was radical.
And I was actually reading something today about this verse, the Matthew 22:39 verse, because it says, love your neighbor as yourself. And so what the article was saying was that basically the pretext to this verse just comes right before it, where it says, love God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, like give God all of you and all your love, but then to love your neighbor as yourself. And so what it was saying was you would be basically unable to love your neighbor if you don't have that like love of God first.
Yeah.
And then also loving yourself. Which is hard, like a lot of the time. There's a lot of people that struggle with that, with, identity issues and things of that sort. But if you aren't loving yourself, not in a conceited manner by any means,
No.
but like, you know, taking care of yourself, being rooted in the faith, like, you know, praying diligently, like being guided by, you know, the Holy Word and things like that. Like, you know, if you aren't loving yourself and taking care of yourself, then it's gonna be really hard for you to love your neighbor as yourself, because if you hate yourself, then you're just gonna hate everybody.
Yes.
But it also brings up the context of like, well, who is your neighbor?
Yeah.
You know, because that's a big question also. Is it like, oh, well, is it the person that lives next door to me? Is it, you know, my immediate neighbor? Is it my direct family? Like who am I supposed to be loving?
Yeah.
And I mean, the simplest answer is everyone.
Yeah.
You know, everybody is your neighbor in some context. And it's more talking about community at large.
Yeah.
You know, who can you love? How can you love others and put others above yourself and in place of yourself?
Yeah.
And that's really hard, I think. Especially in this like super me driven world where it's all about like how can I get ahead? How can I, you know, accelerate my career? How can I make another dollar? How can I, you know, shortcut something somewhere to end up better for me in the long run? And then you have, you know, social media comes into that where it's this, you know, highlight reel of your best life, and all you're showing is like all these best things. And then everyone compares to that too. Like, well, how can I attain that? How can I get to that place? How can I be better?
Yeah.
And so it's all very me driven. So loving others is pretty radical, I would say, today.
Yeah.
Too.
Yes, it is very radical. And, you know, we're actually just reading an interesting little snippet right before we started this about just people and how even when they are seeking a good thing, right, they're seeking equality or whatever, like there can still be that tendency to not love someone who has a differing opinion from you. And guys, it's hard. Like it is so hard to come alongside someone who thinks differently, who feels differently, who believes differently. But that's the call. Like that is what loving people really looks like. And it's going to be radically different than what everyone else around you looks like when they are loving others. And it goes so deep into even how you spend your money. Where do you spend your time? What media do you consume? Like, I know this all sounds crazy, and I'm not telling you to be all like legalistic and like, I can't ever do anything. But really, truly, like, I've felt convicted over this Christmas season of just like, we did some of our shopping, well, a lot of our shopping at like big box stores. And then I felt awful for it because I'm like, this isn't what I was supposed to be doing. Yeah. This doesn't help the world. Like this doesn't help the small business in my community. This doesn't love my neighbor. This makes some dude wealthy.
Yeah. And that is hard. I mean,
it is hard.
It's especially hard because it's convenient.
Yes.
And I feel like that's a big issue too, is that the easy route's the convenient route.
Yes.
You know, loving others and loving your neighbor is hard. It's not always going to be easy. It's loving people who have differing opinions from you. It's loving people that are going to argue with you. It's, you know, it's not arguing back with people. Like that's tough. And it's a hard spot to be in sometimes, to have people yell at you and scream at you and be, you know, irate with you and just have to take it. And then turn around then and extend them grace and extend them that hand of loving them. Yeah. In return for nothing. Yeah. You know, and that's not, I guess it's kind of countercultural to today. It's majorly in the sense countercultural. Of like, you know, most of the time people are trying to give to get, you know what I mean? Like they want to give only so much before they feel like they're being taken advantage of. Yeah. And, you know, I feel like that is kind of rooted in our culture through things of like being, you know, taught like the golden rule, right? Like treat others the way you want to be treated. It's, you know, it's not treat others in spite of how they treat you. Yes. It's treat others the way you want to be treated. So there's still an end goal of how you want to be received. Which,
I mean, that is not a bad thing, right? We should treat others the way we would want to be treated. Yes. And yes, there are like, by no means are we telling you to allow someone to abuse you or to continue to stay in a toxic relationship or whatever, anything like that. Like by no means. But it is so different, because the life that you're going to lead if you're loving others. And guys, we're not perfect. Like,
no.
I'm by no means here yet. I want to be able to put aside the things that I know are right and the things that I believe in so fervently, and not to a sense that I would allow someone's false beliefs to influence what I believe, but in the fact that I can love them for who they are, and not have to change them, if that makes sense.
And I feel like too, it's hard, I guess, for us. Like, I feel like it was a lot easier to do this when we weren't on social media. Like, like, I mean, it was a lot easier to just kind of like remove yourself from the world almost.
Yes.
And to be able to like just go and enjoy people and not see everything that people are like being keyboard warriors and, you know, like posting things that are just hate filled just to post it because it's hate filled. And it's, you know what I mean? And they know it's going to, you know, trigger someone, or it's going to upset someone, or like
they're getting that rise.
They're getting that rise out of people, and they want the confrontation, but they don't want confrontation in real life. And that's why I say keyboard warrior. You know, it's like when we weren't on social media for a couple of years, like it was really easy just to converse with people and have, you know, face-to-face relationships and be able to love them easily through that. But then it's like you get on social media and you're like, wow, like they posted that, like they like, do they believe that? And then it like becomes this like continuation of it, and then it makes it really hard. And like, guys, I struggle with that hard. Like Facebook makes me mad sometimes, like, and it gets to the point where it's like I just have to remove myself again. Like I just have to log off and like just not get back on it for a day. And especially in this season with, you know, the election and politics and how wild it's been, like it makes it so much more difficult to one, root out the truth like of people's emotions and people's feelings. Yes. But then two, like to be able to like full on love people who just so blatantly hate others. And that's hard. You know, because like I was saying, you know, the golden rule, you know, it is, you know, treat others the way you want to be treated. But what we're saying is like, you know, Jesus calls you to more. Like Jesus calls us to love others without ever expecting anything in return. And because of that, like we're supposed to go out and, you know, build relationships with these people that make us mad or, you know, or have differing opinions or are, you know, upsetting or posting like vulgar things on Facebook or whatever. Like it's about, you know, confronting that one, because in love, obviously, like not being like, you know, you did this and how dare you, like, but being like, you know, hey, let's talk about that. Like, let's talk about these beliefs and these things. And like, let's point you in a direction that's showing you what actual love is, and where maybe you aren't fully educated in this, or maybe you're posting this thing because you're upset about something else and you just want to, you know, pass it along or something. Like it gets really muddy and messy.
It does. I think, you know, I keep going back to the ideas of like that, you know, Jesus said what your neighbor was, and it was his enemy. And, you know, Jesus also talks about turning the other cheek when someone strikes you, or giving them your coat. Like if they ask for your coat, give them your shirt too. Like it's not necessarily, to me, even like, because I feel like when you confront someone in love, there has to be relationship there.
Oh, for sure.
And so I think that the biggest thing is being able to build those relationships and love people, truly love people, because when people are confronted with real, true love, the love of Christ, like it changes things. Like I really think about Zacchaeus when I think about people changing, and just like our calling as believers or as Christians or just as humans, like our calling to love, especially as Christians. Like I think about how Jesus went to Zacchaeus when everybody was like, no, don't go to that guy.
Yeah.
Oh, he's so bad. Like, don't talk to him. Oh, you can't go to his house. Like, he's a bad dude. And yeah, maybe he'd done some messed up stuff. And he had. I mean, he'd stolen a lot of money. He was not a good dude. But he spent one afternoon with Jesus. And it changed his life. Like, Jesus didn't even say anything
about any of it.
No.
Yeah.
He said, I'm coming to your house for lunch today. And he went to his house, and by the end of the day, and we're not told what's said, really, you know, it doesn't go into that much detail, but like by the end of that day, Zacchaeus pays back every person he's wronged tenfold. Yeah. And he does, like, he changes his life right then and there because he's had a confrontation with love. And you can't walk away from true love and not be changed.
Yeah, absolutely. And just forgiveness too, right?
Yes.
Like, I mean, that's a big side of it too. And I feel like that's really could be one of the first practical steps in this.
Yeah.
And so maybe we'll take a break real quick. And when we come back from this break, we will just talk about how you can implement this, what are some practical steps you can do, and what are some things you can do just in your daily life that will show love without necessarily being a huge like step for you, I guess. So bear tight with us.
Well, we want you to make some pretty big steps,
yes,
but anyway.
But bear with us real quick, and we will be right back. All right, and welcome back, guys. We had to get the cameras reset, and we were both also sweating to death. So
it's really hot in this room.
We decided to open up our window here, and it is actually a beautiful snowstorm out right now. First snow of our season here, and it is actually sticking to the ground. And
so exciting.
We're gonna wake up to an inch or two tomorrow, probably, and it's supposed to snow all day tomorrow. So that's pretty exciting. But yeah, it was also the first day I was able to wear a sweater all day without feeling like death, like I was going to be sweating to death. But anyways, we want to get back to this here. We really wanted to talk on just some like practical things that people can do, and ways that anybody can really love your neighbor. And this is kind of really just inspired because of the season that we are in right now, with, like we said, you know, politics and just debate on everything, really. Yeah. As far as like climate control and like all these things, like it's just wild out there. And every topic seems to be like, you are right or you're like wrong. Yeah. And like everybody wants to fight you on no matter what your opinion is and no matter what like camp you're in. It's always an issue.
Yes.
And we'd also seen just a lot of people out there just being very angry and very hostile. And it was just really upsetting to us, because that's not going to accomplish anything. No. If anything, it's going to make things worse. Yeah. And we feel that, you know, as Christians, we need to be better.
We do. You know, I've just, like, I'll be totally honest. My heart has just been really broken. No, had we not been back on social media, I would have never seen any of it. Yeah. And it probably would have been different. I would have been able to live in this naivety that like none of it's happening. Everyone's great. Like, you know, but being back on social media and seeing the attacks that Christians have been like waging against one another, even like, it's just, guys, we can do better. We can do so much better. I just really have been really heartbroken when I look at the state of the church right now and the state of Christianity in America truly has been, you know, I think it was summed up for me in a quote that I read a couple weeks ago that was talking about how, for the most part in America, Christianity has been exchanged for American nationalism, and how what people stand behind, and this is not for everyone, please don't think I'm putting all Christians into this camp, but that truly a large percentage of American Christians have exchanged the glory of God for a government. Yeah. And that's heartbreaking, because then the hate spewed, the rhetoric discussed, the anger spewed at one another. Guys, it's not okay.
No,
It's not okay.
It's not showing Christ, and it's not showing Christ's love.
No,
it's not showing grace. It's not showing anything that we're called to. And and like you said, like we can do better, but not only can we do better, like we are called to do better. Like we are commanded to do better. And I think that's what's just so stark about what we see now and what you see in the Bible. Like what you see Christians are commanded to do, like, and then you see what Christians in America do. It's starkly different, and it's upsetting.
It is. I think that Jen Hatmaker had this whole post about, and you know, whether you love her or not, that's fine. I personally, I'm a huge fan. She had this post a couple weeks ago about basically what we're talking about now. And she kind of said, like, because of this, a lot of us have, I mean, and Christians in general, our name is tarnished, and we've lost so much of our ground as a witness to the world.
Absolutely.
Because of what we've chosen, because of the anger and hatred we've chosen instead of living a life of love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard. But we recently did a Bible study on forgiveness, and it was more so about like forgiving the little things. Yeah. And I think that's a good first practical step that we kind of talked about. So the whole idea behind this is like not letting the little slights and the little upsets, you know, like when someone cuts you off in traffic, or when someone jumps ahead of you in the grocery store line, or like, you know, just little things like that. Like when you're stuck in traffic or whatever it may be, like instead of like letting that boil you over, like just forgiving those people, like just immediately just being like, you know what, I forgive them, and just move on, and like just let it roll off your back and continue on.
Well, because how many things do we allow to grip us, right? Like in those moments, how many things do we allow to ruin our day because someone cut us off in traffic, or some customer at our job said the wrong thing and made us mad, or, you know, whatever it may be. How often do we allow that to then salt how we walk through our day?
Well, I feel like it too then just creates this like snowball effect. Like I feel like the first thing that like pisses you off in the morning, like is just that, the first thing. Yeah. And then you're already in that like mode of being upset, and you're already angry, and you're already like, you know, on the edge or whatever. And then every other little thing is just going to compound that. And it's going to make it worse, and it's going to make you angrier. And then it's going to turn into like full on like rage. Yeah. And it can then boil over into like bigger things. And that's where it becomes an issue. So you can show love to others by just forgiving them. Yeah. Like you don't have to go up and be like, oh, I forgive you for cutting me in line. Like, you know what? Yeah. You're forgiven. Like, don't do that. Like, that's dumb. Like, that's going to make you a showboaty person. And that's going to take the entire act of forgiveness and grace out of it, because you made it about you. Yes. You know, it's about just being like, you know what, God, like, I'm just going to let that go. Like, give me the power and the strength to just forgive that person and move on, and then do it. Like, trust in that, and trust that you're able to just get over it and move forward. And obviously we're not talking about big things like you had alluded to earlier, like, you know, physical abuses, mental abuses, things like that. Like those aren't little things, and those aren't things that should just be forgiven and let go, because that's not what's going to fix things. But when it's a little tiny thing, like just move on.
But even in those big things, forgiveness is so much more about your own heart and about your then ability to turn around and love others. So even in the big things, find a way to forgive, because it will set you free. 100%. Not because you then allow that person back in if it's a big thing, not because it takes away the hurt, not because it takes away the wrong. Yes. From a situation, but it frees you.
But the forgiveness in those big things is not forgetting, right?
No, not at all.
That's lunacy. Like if you're just like, oh, like it's okay, like don't worry about it, you know, it's fine that you know you hit me, or it's fine that whatever, like don't don't allow that, because then it enables and creates a trend. I saw it all too often when I was a police officer. Like, it's bad. It's a cycle. It's cyclical. It's not good.
Yeah.
But you can forgive that person and remove that person. So I want to be very clear that forgiveness is allowing the judgment to fall from you judging that person and condemning that person and allowing God to judge that person.
It's trusting that God will make right all things.
It's nothing to do with allowing that person to continue that trend of behavior. But anyways, this Bible study was really kind of good for us. Like, it was really eye-opening. It was perfect timing for like all of this, because I feel like the little things can include social media, because I feel like so many people are triggered in social media.
I personally am
100%. Like, we all see those videos of, the quote unquote Karens, right? Like, Karen's gone wild or whatever, like, that are out there, like just causing a ruckus about everything. But could you imagine if all these people in the world that let little things like wearing a mask in a grocery store just go, and they just were able to just concede and just forgive the government for making them do this, like, whatever, like, and then it would just alleviate that problem. Or if you just, forgive the person on Facebook for making the nasty political post, and you're like, you know what, like, I'm not gonna let this ruin my day. Like, I'm just gonna forgive that was hate filled and gross and move on. Like, and it's not going to create that snowball effect, and it's going to create a clarity in your mind that's going to be able to help you to continue to love others through forgiveness and through grace.
Yes. Well, because if we hold on to every one of those things, then we're going to become exactly what is that we're looking at that's so offensive to us.
100%. Yeah, because I mean, you're just as bad then. Yeah. Right? Like,
absolutely.
If I allow something to upset me that I see in the world, right, and it makes me angry, then I'm just as bad, because my opinions are going to come out. Like, I know myself. Yeah. Like, I'm going to get mad.
That is true.
I'm not going to have that filter. What?
Sorry, you had a weird hair on your beard. Sorry, I didn't mean to distract you.
Pulling on my face for those of you who can't see. Anyways, like, if I get like in that fit of rage or whatever, like if I get angry about something, like, I'm going to tell people what I feel. And
that checks out.
It's not good, but like, I know that about me. Like, I can see that in me. And so, like, for this Bible study, be like, hey, Chase, like, just let that stuff go. Yeah. Like, don't be caught up in that, because it's just going to lead you down that path of becoming more and more angry. And it's going to lead you down the path of causing issues, like within your family, within your friends, at work, like, wherever it may be, like, it will come up. And it will be a problem. Yeah. I promise. Like, I've seen it unfold in so many people's lives, like, growing up, like, in my own instances, like, it affects people to just be angry. Like, and it sucks to be around you when you're angry. Not you, Jess, but like rhetoric you. No. And so I feel like,
I'm not angry often.
No, you really aren't. You're a pretty gentle soul. But I think that's a first key step, is learning to just let the small stuff roll off your back. Yeah. Then, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, I guess another idea, unless you want to continue talking about forgiveness. Yeah, go ahead. Cool. I guess continue on this, trying to like what you can do, is like just serving. Right. Like, whatever that looks like to you, whatever that feels like for you, like, go out and serve your community, serve those around you, serve your church, serve your food bank. Like, if you don't go to church, like, whatever, like, find somewhere to serve. Like, go walk around downtown wherever you live and pick up trash. Yeah, like, you know, like, go out and hang out with the homeless for a couple hours, like, and just talk to them and listen to them. Like, we've talked about this before in our service episode. Like, go listen to that episode. There's lots of really good ideas in it. Yeah. But service is a huge way that you can show love to other people, because it's sacrificing your time, it's sacrificing your money, it's sacrificing your ability to help others.
Yeah. And I would highly encourage you, if there's a bias you hold, If there is a people group that you specifically feel differently towards, if there is just something that rubs you the wrong way, why don't you go serve them? Because, and I say this because when you are exposed to people, when you are hateful towards them, I don't know how to put this into like a better context. Say I was anti-men. I'm not, but say I was. And I was like, oh, men, they were the worst. But I chose to go and serve that people group. I chose to go and put myself in a place where I was confronted with who they were and I got to know them. Guys, it changes everything. When you put a face and a humanity to the people that you think are so wrong and so unworthy, it changes how you think about them.
Yeah.
It changes how you see them. So that would be my encouragement. If you have a hard time with whatever it is, immigrants, refugees, like if that's something that you're like, oh, they shouldn't be here or, oh, whatever, go serve there because you will put a face with people. You will put lives with people, real souls with people, and you will see that we're really more alike than we are different. And
it makes it real. Like,
yes,
everybody has their problems. Everybody has issues. Like, we're not exempt from that. Like,
no.
We as Americans, we as Jason Jess, like we aren't exempt from that. And neither are the people that people hate. Yeah. Like, we're all humans.
Yes.
And what was that you were reading today that was talking about, like, we're all a part of the human race.
Oh, yeah. So, like, it was a mental floss that I watched on.
If you feel like you're like the war over in Syria or like, you know, the West Bank wars and, you know, like if they don't like, oh, it doesn't affect me. Like, it doesn't matter to me. Like, the only thing that happens is like my gas prices go up. Like, you know, it doesn't hurt my feelings. It doesn't affect me. Like, you know what? Like, they're humans too. Like, we're all humans in this. And you know what? It affects the human race. And like, yeah, it does affect you. And it needs to affect you. Like, you need to have a broken heart for these people who are broken and beaten. Like, it's not easy. And well, we'll put it this way. It's really easy to sit in our comfortable bubble here in America.
Yes.
It's really hard to confront the realities of this world of people who have less. And if you can go out there and you can serve those communities, just like Jess said, if you can go and serve in a refugee community, like heck, here in Columbus, there is a huge Somali refugee like population. Like, go and help those people. Like, go and meet a family, foster a family, take care of those people, get to know them. They are wonderful. Well, like, and just love them.
If you're looking for a way to do that, Lutheran Family Services is particularly involved with refugee communities around the United States.
We'll link them in the show notes.
Yeah, they will link you up with a family that is newly coming to the United States, because most people don't know this. There is a quota basically that the United States will take in so many refugees a year, and they'll say, okay, this year there's a huge Somali population of refugees that need a place. So they'll say, okay, we're going to take 1 million Somali refugees or whatever it is. I'm making up numbers. These are not true.
Don't quote her.
Don't quote, please. But they will do this in order to be a part, like it's all a part of a global effort to help refugees in the world, which is good. That is love in action. And that's what we should be about as people. Yeah. And so if you're looking for a way to get involved, go check out Lutheran Family Services in your local city.
But just serving is huge. And that could be just serving your actual neighbor. Like, they're like the person who lives next door to you.
How many of us actually do that?
I mean, go next door and, you know, like, mow their grass. Like, every time I think about loving your neighbor, I think of your aunt Cindy.
Oh yeah. She can love people.
She loves hard. Like, she is always sacrificing herself to go above and beyond for everybody else in her community and around. And guys, she's not a believer, like, in the strictest sense of the form. She doesn't go to church. She's not involved in church ministries. Like, but she is such a wonderful human being. And you know what? She is showing the love of Christ more than most Christians.
Absolutely.
And she is out here mowing people's grass that can't do it. She's like taking food to people. She watches our kids all the time and is so selfless in that. And like, she is such an amazing person. And I always think of that when I think of like this verse, because she is doing it. She's out there loving people. And it's not these grand gestures. Like, it's crappy work. Like, she goes and mows grass. I mean, she's about to retire and she's out there mowing people's lawns like a teenager would do for $10. I mean, or
she
50. I don't know how much they charge nowadays.
Paid.
No, she doesn't get paid.
She
at
just
all.
does it
like,
out of the goodness of her
does
heart.
this, and she does a job that a teenager should be doing, and she loves it. Like, she will tell us often, like, oh, I can't do that today with you guys because I gotta mow so and so's grass. Like, she sacrifices fun to go serve people. And that is a true form of showing your neighbor love. And if you guys can get any takeaway from this episode, like, it is just about the small seeds that you can plant, the small acts that you can do, the show love, the show gratitude, the show forgiveness, the show grace to your fellow human, that are going to turn into grandiose return. Like, it's going to spread like wildfire through your community. If you start to give more of your time to your community, then more people are going to be like, you know what, I can do this. Like,
absolutely,
invite other people to serve with you and get them on the train of doing things. Because if we can be a force for good in America, for the world, and for Americans, like, we're unstoppable. Like, there's so many resources and so much money here. Like, just give just a little bit. And instead of, you know, treating others the way you want to be treated, like, just treat others. Like, take care of them.
Yeah.
Like, uphold them. Like, love them. And it's not always hard.
Yeah. I feel like we are in this time where some people are awakening to the ideas of like that they can look at their lives and see the privilege that they have. And, you know, one of my favorite albums is a King's Kaleidoscope album where they have a bunch of different rappers come and sing with them. But I love Propaganda. He is, if you've never heard him, please go check out his albums. They are,
we'll link him in the show notes.
So incredible and have so much to say. But he says the option, or the luxury of the option of participation, is a great right. Like, if you have the right to participate in loving someone, like if you have that option, then you have lots of rights. And so you need to use those. Yeah. You need to go. You need to love. You need to do more, because we in America have for too long, especially within the church, like, yes, we maybe give missionaries money and we're like, oh, they're doing good work over there. Good job. Or we give of our weekends here and there. But are we really being the George Mueller who opens up an orphanage with no money and no way to pay for anything, but trust that God's going to provide? And day after day after day, he does, because you're doing his work. Like,
or our college professor that had an orphanage overseas and just kept adopting children.
Yes. He called them his negative. Yeah, we had a wonderful professor that we actually both shared, which was funny.
From different universities.
He worked at both of our universities. We actually asked him to marry us, but he was not able to at the time. Yeah. I think he was going to be at the orphanage that he opened in Cambodia, but just an amazing human who, I mean, truly was living this life of love. But yeah, he had adopted so many kids, and he'd only had a few with his wife, like a couple with his wife. And he would call them, like, because people at CU Boulder, where you would go, would say, oh, you have so many kids, like you're attributing to overpopulation of the globe. And so he called those like they made his factors go in the negative.
Yeah, because he had like,
well, I adopted like 6 of them, so it's fine. Had 2,
so he was like really -4 children.
Yeah.
Anyways, so like we said, like, if you can go out and serve, if you can go out and forgive, if you can go out and love, like that's what's important. And showing people and just showing up for people and just, we hope that you got that out of this. Like, more than anything, just show love.
And if this convicted you, good. Like, that's a good place to be, because it is time then. God is moving in you. Like, it's time.
Get up and move your feet.
Do something.
Absolutely.
If this is encouraging you, awesome. That's great too. Like, we want this to evoke change, not only in us, but in others. Because if it doesn't, that makes me sad for the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's why we do these podcasts. I mean, that's why we bring up these hard topics, and that's why we share this on YouTube, like, because we want to hopefully spread this message to other people. Hopefully it's the spark, the catalyst that, creates that change in somebody that makes them want to serve more. And then they can be the catalyst and the spark for somebody else. And it just grows and grows and grows.
Yes.
And so please, guys, like, it is important. Like, we ask every time, like, if you got any value out of this content, like, like the content on whatever channel you're watching it on, because it does get it out to other people. It beats the little algorithm that's on YouTube or on the podcast service, and it pushes it out to more people. If you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel or you subscribe to our podcast service on Apple, like, it shows up in people's feeds more, so that other people can hopefully hear this news and hear this challenge to others to love others. And hopefully we can be a small spark and a small catalyst that can create something beautiful in this world. So, I guess with that, like, please share this with people, like, get it out there, share your love with people. Like, it doesn't have to be sharing this podcast. Like, I don't care about that.
No.
If you just go out and you're just like, hey, you know what? I'm going to love this person today because I felt convicted by what Chase and Jess said. Sweet. Like,
or
I don't need
encouraged,
any of the glory or accolades or any of that. Like, we just want to help people. We just want to get this out to you guys. And thank you so much for listening. Thank you to all of you guys who have texted us or sent us messages saying, like, how you guys have enjoyed this podcast. Like, it's awesome to hear that. And it really encourages us that, like, we're not just sitting here chatting to ourselves. And this is actually, helping people because that's what we want.
So our final thing to you is go out and love your neighbor. Love your immigrant neighbor, your refugee neighbor, your LGBTQ neighbor, your conservative neighbor, your Democrat neighbor, your
every
neighbor.
And love them hard.
Your, person of color neighbor, all of it. Love them hard.
And with that, guys, we will see you on the next one.
Bye.